Hello, AUSD colleagues. My name is Kirsten Bramstedt, and I'm a teacher at Encinal Junior and Senior High School. And this is a presentation about arts integration, creativity, and the future. And welcome, and thank you for choosing this presentation. So, the objectives for today. Participants will come away with an appreciation for the arts mindset and know that creativity is not only an important 21st century skill, but will be essential in our recovery and the new way we will teach during these transitional times. The arts play an important yet mostly unrecognized role in trauma-informed practices, social emotional learning, and culturally responsive teaching. Why? Because the arts are healing and the arts speak to our humanity. The ideas presented can be used both in class and in distance learning to make learning relevant, engaging, and healing. So before we get into this, let's take a moment of mindfulness because we're all going through it right now. Not just our students, but the whole world, including us teachers. So self-care, centering, stress relief is really important. And we might try this technique with our students next year. So let's sit with our feet on the floor, relax your shoulders, still your hands. You can close your eyes if you want, and then take a nice deep breath through your nose and release. Let's do it one more time. If you take a deep breath through your nose and then fill your belly and then release through your mouth, that affects your brain even more positive ways. So again, close your eyes and take a nice deep breath through your nose. Fill your belly and release and relax. Okay, so hopefully you're feeling better and getting ready to learn about arts integration, creativity in the future. So I'm going to start with a thinking routine, see, think, wonder. You've probably used it before with this image. The thinking routine comes from Harvard Project Zero, and it's great for any image. You know, any image, you have an illustration, a poster, a photograph, but we're going to use it with this illustration, and we're going to start with, what do you see? And of course, this is from a workshop that I did last June in PD, which was very hands-on and interactive. And normally I would get with a partner and you could discuss it with each other and then share it out. So you could take a minute. There's a lot to see here. There's a lot of details. What do you see? And we're not trying to interpret it yet. That's what students like to do. I think it's it's just like colors, shapes, details, etc. So you could see lots of details. One side is kind of a gray, bluish green, depending on your take. The other side is very colorful, all different colors. Here there seem to be faceless people working in cubicles in a computer, and here on this side there are many people doing many active things. You also might look at the big picture and say it's someone's head cut open and you see their brain, right? So we have someone working on a computer, making a movie, painting, meditating, looking through a telescope, reading, flying a kite, being in nature, playing a guitar. And then there's some cool details here of people jumping over the bridges, okay? So there's a lot to see here. So now what do you think it's about? And you could take a moment, tell yourself, say it out loud, what do you think it's about? So this is an image that I'm an art teacher and a Spanish teacher. And for years and years and years, I've started my Art 1 class with this image and this lesson that I'm about to teach you. And it's about the difference between the left and right side of the brain. Okay, so in a nutshell, but if you have a discussion in class or even in a Zoom call, you elicit it. There's no right or wrong answer. You're just saying what you think, right? And then what questions you have, wonder, what do you have? Like maybe some questions that come up are, why are these people going across this bridge? Or um, why do they have no faces? Or there could be many, many questions. And then I like to add to this thinking routine, do you like it? Why or why not? Not so much with this one. I mean, yeah, because it gives students agency, like, especially with works of art. Do you have to like it? I tell them, no, you do not have to like it. But then you want to tell me why or why or not. And then I also do this as a written activity too. This can also be a written activity. So really quickly, let's talk about these visible thinking routines that come out of Harvard's Project Zero. A lot of what I talk about today is research-based. So see, think, wonder, you can see here. And then of course, our favorite um, think, pair, share is in here somewhere, right? Tug of war, step inside. And then there hopefully will be a link to this slideshow. So you could click, there's a whole bunch of clickable links. So you could go to this uh, Harvard Project Zero website and check these out, okay? So the way I taught drawing one was definitely from this book by Betty Edwards, came out in the 1970s, I believe, called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And it was super powerful way to teach about drawing, okay? Because most students, and probably you too, think you don't know how to draw. So this is a really powerful metacognitive way. There's a whole bunch of really good exercises in here, like drawing upside down and blind contour drawings. Those are probably the most famous ones that, I mean, I saw it for years and years, and all my students really get them to get out of their left brain and into their right brain. And it's based on originally it was based on research of people who had brain injuries and they found what goes on either side of the brain. And I know a lot of people think, oh, this is hogwash. And it's not that you use one or the other. Your brain definitely uses both, but it's well known that the left side of the brain is, and unfortunately this is not a good slide, so let's go to the next one. The left side of the brain is more logical. It's about analysis. It's everything's in order. It's linear. It's about numbers and language and facts. It's right or wrong answers. It thinks in words, computation. So the right side of the brain is more about creativity, imagination, holistic thinking. It sees the whole thing, intuition, the arts, music, dance, rhythm, nonverbal. It's not about words at all. Feelings, visualizations, daydreaming. Here's another one. So what I like to talk about is that most of our students think school is like this. If we ask them, a lot of them think school is pretty darn boring, right? Especially we have to be at school at 8 o'clock. If you're not there on time, you're tardy. And then it goes from first period to second period to third period to fourth period. You get A's, B's, C's, D's. Everything's very linear, logical. It's very robotic, right? This is what a robot is like. But what if we made school more like this part, right? More active. It looks like they're having fun. It looks like there's in the moment. That's the thing. The left side of the brain is also about time. Like when we're drawing, like when I say draw a face, they'll just draw a smiley face, which takes like 2 seconds, right? But if you're really drawing a portrait of someone, it could take hours, days, weeks, right? And when you're in the moment of making artwork, you lose track of time. And I think that we're all kind of feeling that right now. We're in this transition. Maybe we're like these people going from the bridge where we're kind of done with the old normal, which was like kind of in the rat race matrix. And now that we have a break from that, even though there's a lot of stress going on, I see people out there riding their bikes and being creative and maybe learning an instrument. And now we have more time for these things. And then the whole sense of time, like what day is today? How many of us have been feeling that? So that's why I relate this presentation is called Arts Integration, Creativity in the Future. And I gave this presentation last June, not thinking that the future would come upon us so rapidly. Like the future I was thinking about is happening now. So this arts mindset is really important about bringing in the future in a positive way. And I really have, even though we're going through these harsh transition period, it's rough for a lot of us. I have hope that the future will bring us more of life that looks like this. I mean, I'm meditating every day now, and I go out in nature and I get some sunshine. I was doing some artwork until I had to figure out how to do this online learning. But um, anyway, the future is an interesting concept to be thinking about right now. So this whole left-right brain thing, I see it's so many ways. Not in my only in my students when I was teaching art, like how powerful it was, but we know about the mindset, the idea of growth and fixed mindset, which is by researcher Carol Dweck. I see that one of her TED Talks is part of our PD here. And she actually mentions Betty Edwards' book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, in that book that I read. It's a real quick read, this book, and I think everyone should read it. And I use this with my students, and I do a real quick lesson, probably about as long as about I'm going to talk about you right now. And it totally, the kids get it right away, and it totally changes the way they see themselves. So to me, this fixed mindset is more that left, logical, strict, right, wrong, black, white thinking. You're either good at it or you're not. I don't like to be challenged. When I'm frustrated, I give up. And then I notice like you want to get through things really quick. Whereas the growth mindset, you take your time with things. And now students have time. Like you can give them projects and art projects where they lose themselves in the moment. Not only is it fun, it's growth mindset, but what I'm going to tell you about later is very healing too. So this is more open-minded. It's more holistic. They like to try new things. So here's a connection that I see between this left and right brain mindset and this growth and fixed mindset by Carol Dweck. So I've been doing this research a long time, and Ellen Dissanayake is another aesthetic researcher. I read some of her books, and basically in a nutshell that she says that art is what makes us human, There's no other animal really that makes art. I mean, I have seen elephants paint paintings, but in general, it's humans who make art. So it's had art, and I'm talking not just about drawing and painting, which I teach, but music, dance, theater, all the arts. They speak to our humanity. So this is about social emotional learning, trauma informed, it's very healing, and it speaks to all our students because all our students are human, no matter what kind of learner they are. And it relates to their humanity. So it's very engaging. It engages them. So let me just read one of these quotes. In every human society of which we know, prehistoric, ancient, or modern, whether hunter-gatherer, pastoral, agricultural, or industrial, at least some form of art is displayed, and not only displayed, but highly regarded and willingly engaged in. Okay, so art making evolved as a behavior that contained advantages for human survival, right? And then she even says they went so far beyond what Charles Darwin ever imagined. So arts are what make us human. And then I heard this very interesting thing on the radio a while back about indigenous worldview versus Western worldview. And I also see a connection between the left and right side of the brain. So, and then in the notes that aren't displayed, it has the link to this, where I got this information. So again, the Western worldview would be more left brain, indigenous world view more right brain, right? So left brain is more, left brain, Western is more scientific, skeptical, requiring proof as basis of belief, whereas the indigenous worldview is spiritually orientated. It's more about holistic, right? Here, the Western or left brain is, there's only one truth, right or wrong. But the indigenous worldview is there can be many truths depending on your experience. Car, 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 oh wow, compartmentalized society. Whereas here, everyone's related and connected, right? So if you want to pause this, you can read it because I don't want to go on too long, right? This original workshop was 3 hours. I don't want to make it 3 hours. But this also has to do with kind of decolonizing our education and our syllabus and thinking about these things in a different way. I also was reading Zaretta Hammond's book, and this is more of a, what does she call it? She calls it a collectivist culture, right? Worldview. It also relates to this. So again, if you want to pause it and read it, it's fascinating. Well, let's go on. Okay, I also read this book by Ian McGilchrist, The Master and His Emissary. And it was like very scientific, doctor-based, but the basic tenet he was saying, and I agree, and one of the things about the left and right brain that I get from teaching and reading that book by We're Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain is that the left brain likes to be in charge. It likes to be in charge. It doesn't like to give up. So like say you're doing an upside drawing or you're getting in the moment and you're drawing all the details of your hand. Some students go right into it. There's no problem. But there are some students that fight. They don't want to do it. And I'm sure there's a lot of us and adults too who think, well, I can't do art. I'm no good at art. I'm really bad at it, that kind of thing. And that to me is your left brain being critical. It's very critical, right? Saying, you can't draw a straight line. How can you, right? It has that, it's that those voices inside your brain. So I try to get my students to turn off that critical left brain voice in their head saying, this is dumb, hurry up, can't believe we have to do this, and go into the right side of your brain where you're lost in the moment. There's no words. You just see lines and shapes and colors and textures. And you relax. Okay, so the idea of the main tenet that I got from this book is that, that this left brain dominance has been going on basically in the Western world since the time of the Greeks, okay? So it's very dominant in our world. And again, I see we're transitioning. We're in a time of transition where perhaps it's not gonna be so dominant anymore. So let me just read, go back, shucks. The differing worldviews of the right and left brain, the master and the emissary, have, according to the author, shaped Western culture since the time of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, and the growing conflict between these views has implications for the way the modern world is changing. Okay, and then of course I'm excited to hear Zaretta Hammond speak. We're lucky to have her. This also relates to culturally responsive teaching. So different learning styles, it's more active, it's more social, you're making connections. It has to do with art and music and rhythm and call and response, games, stories. It benefits all students. So this relates to that too. And Sir Ken Robinson. So you may have seen him. I'm pretty sure he has the most watched TED Talk. If it's not still the most watched TED Talk, he's up there. For a long time, he's had the most watched TED Talk. And he talks about how schools and education kills creativity. So this is one of his quotes. We are educating people out of their creative capacities. I believe this passionately, that we don't grow into creativity, we grow out of it, or rather we get educated out of it. So, you know, as kids, or if you have kids yourself, or you teach kindergarten, first grade, preschool, kids are very creative. And then unfortunately, this left brain dominant school system kind of squashes that out of people with the rigidity. Okay. And then, you know, we think Albert Einstein, the smartest scientist, but he was actually had the interesting combination of science and spirituality. And he says, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So again, he's noticing that this left brain logical way of thinking is too dominant and it's time for it to change. Here are some more quotes by Albert Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited to all we know. For knowledge is limited to all we now know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there ever will be to know and understand. So again, knowledge, left brain, imagination, right brain, there's a connection there. So if you have some time and want to participate, and if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, preferably a pen, like especially a felt tip pen works the best for this, a felt tip pen. And I have students metacognate while they're making a work of art. And metacognition, if you don't know, is basically about thinking about how you're thinking. So as I have them make this work of art, I want them to be thinking about how they're feeling, what are they seeing, what are they thinking, what are they noticing. And what the activity is called a Zen tangle. So many of you may have done this, and this is a great activity to do in your class. It's definitely social, emotional learning. It's also metacognition, getting you to think about how you think. And I just realized that I need to get a piece of paper. So hold on, let me get a piece of paper. Okay, so Zentangle, and if you Google Zentangle, especially YouTube, there's tons and tons and tons of information and videos. It's fun to show students like slow motion videos of people doing Zentangles. It's fascinating. So Zentangle is an American method for drawing which not only promotes concentration and creativity, but at the same time increases personal well-being. Zentangle was invented by a monk named Rick Roberts and an artist named Maria Thomas. With Zentangle, they created a combination of meditation and art. So the idea is you're making art, but you're also meditating, thus the name Zentangle. So here are some examples, and again, I got some YouTube links here. And if you want to follow along, you can pause and do this. It doesn't take very long. I mean, it takes as long as you want it to. And so if you have a piece of paper, the way I like to do it is I like to draw a square or a rectangle. It doesn't have to be, you can even do a small piece of paper, something like that, and to give it some, a border, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna annotate it in the border about what we're metacogniting, what are we thinking. Okay, and then you're gonna split it up into 3 to 5 random sections. 3 to 5 random sections, okay? So then you're gonna start drawing patterns in each section, right? And again, this is a great way to spend the afternoon if you're bored, and if you're feeling stressed out, if you notice your students are feeling stressed out, right? You could start making patterns in each of the sections. I'm gonna go through this quickly, but also if you look online, there's like if you're stuck on what pattern to make, just Google Zentangle patterns and there's tons of ideas. And as you're doing that, as you're making these different patterns in the sections, right? Doing this really quick, but if you take your time, if you're doing it quickly, you're more left brain. If you take your time, you zoom in into the moment. And then you get all the benefits of being in the moment. You want to metacognate on how you're thinking and feeling, right? So when we reflect on this at the end, you can annotate your thoughts. So like some people, it depends. If you're someone who easily gets into that right brain mode, you might feel relaxed. You might feel calm. You might notice that time stops, things like that. But some people who are not comfortable with this yet, and one of the biggest obstacles to this left-right brain thinking or to drawing or art is, I can't do art, I'm bad at it. This is silly, da 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 da. But again, it's that left brain critical thinking. Some people might feel uncomfortable. They might feel that everything they're doing is stupid, da da da. You know, they might be critical about it. But again, with practice, the more you do this, the more that you are aware that you're getting benefits from it. Okay. So again, if you were doing this as an activity in class or even distance learning, you could think, pair, share, and share with each other. You can even do a gallery walk and walk around and look at people's Zentangle drawings, like look at similarities, differences, comment on them. It makes for a nice gallery walk experience. So again, you can pause this and take your time and do this, or hopefully you check this out. It's a fun activity to do with students. So actually, I'm going to go to this one first. This was a cool thing. Like it's kind of like a giant Zentangle, but it also relates to this how coloring books, even for adults, are becoming really popular. And this was something from social media that I saw from a teacher's classroom, a de-stress corner, right? If you're feeling stressed out, you can go get a marker and start coloring it in, and you feel more relaxed. And then here's a nice quote. Art and music are the drugs of choice for millions of kids. If we expect them to just say no to a chemical high, we must recognize the healing alternative, their own creativity. Demand and support the real anti-drug program, arts and education. Okay, so when I started doing this years and years ago, let me go back. I mean, I intuitively know, I just happened to grow up with talent, being an artist, and a lot of people probably discredit what I'm saying because I'm already an artist, but you know, I intuitively know the benefits of the arts. And up until just a few years ago, there was not that much research on this to prove it. But in just the past few years, there's tons and tons of research. So this article, if you click here, it takes you to it, kind of summarize a lot of the issues that the research about what happens to your brain when you make art. And in a nutshell, one thing it does, it activates the reward center of your brain. It lowers stress, and that's the main thing we're talking about right now. Like in general, students are stressed out about their classes and their tests, and now there's even more stress going on in the world, right? So this is like really important that we start doing this. It lets you focus deeply. Like I said, if left brain, hurry up, get it over with. Right brain, you zoom into the moment, and it helps you relax. It helps you process your emotions. Like, you know, art therapy is a whole thing. Like, helps you process your emotions. Think Frida Kahlo with her horrible accident and her messed up love life. She put it all out there on her canvas, and it helped her deal with her life. And it's very important that no matter what kind of art you do or how good you think you are at it, it still has beneficial effects. So try to turn off that left brain critical voice that says, this is stupid, you can't do it. And just relax into it and try to be open-minded to the benefits of making art. Again, any kind of art, dance, music, rhythm, theater. All right, so now we go into the next part where it's really focused on creativity. Why creativity? So art and creativity in the future, this is for the 4 C's of 21st century skills, right? They all happen to start with a C. Of course, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and then creating. Creating is at the zenith of this. And of course, this came out nearly 20 years ago. And I haven't heard anyone in Alameda Unified School District talk about this. I think the 21st century skills are really important. And now even more, we're 21st century, we got a lot more of it left, and things are gonna change drastically even more. We don't know what the future holds. And creativity is the key, in my opinion. So here we have Bloom's taxonomy. Of course, we know this very well. And it's interesting that in 2001, first of all, they changed it from nouns, evaluation, synthesis, analysis, application, comprehension, knowledge, to verbs, actions. And it goes from the bottom: remember, understand, apply, analyze. And they switched this evaluation and they made the very top of the zenith create. So creating is the highest form of thinking and in Bloom's taxonomy. So here's just a couple of quotes. The creative adult is the child who survived. So yeah, being creative, it helps deal with all the trauma in our lives and get it out. It's very healing. And again, creativity is intelligence, having fun. Creativity is fun. It's engaging. And I think it's really important that if we have blended learning and we have some time with our students in class, hopefully that we don't have them staring at screens, that we have them actively engaged in movement and art and creativity and talking to each other. And even the assignments that we assign in distance learning should be more project-based and include creativity. So here's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, another classic thing that we learned in our teacher training. And right, so psychological, safety, those are the bottom important ones: love and belonging, esteem. And then in self-actualization, notice creativity is there at the top: problem solving, lack of prejudice, acceptance of facts. Wow, this really applies right now, huh? So creativity is our birthright, is an integral part of being human, as basic as walking, talking, and thinking. Again, it's part of being human. That's what makes the arts so engaging. And then, of course, all of these, we've all learned this in our teacher training. Jean Piaget and John Dewey, we learned all about them. And their constructivist theory, hands-on creativity, relates to this whole theory that I have. So constructivist theory holds that learners are not passive recipients of knowledge, but are more active in the process. They build on previous experience in order to make a sense of what they're learning. They are more active in the creation of meaning and knowledge. This leads to a more student-centered approach, which the student guides his own learning. So again, I like this idea of being active learners, not passive ones, and the arts and creativity lend themselves to this constructivist theory. And then there's this great book that came out a while ago by Daniel H. Pink, and it's called The Whole New Mind: Why Right-Brainers Will Rule the Future. Again, the future, future, future. So this is I really enjoyed reading this book. And basically, one of the things he says is that, like there's the future, or the jobs at this was a while ago, were being taken away by computers or shipped overseas, right? Those kind of jobs that computers can do or could be shipped overseas, or are not the kind of jobs that we want our students to have. They should be dealing with more creative things, more innovative things, right? And that's the kind of thing that we want our students to be doing. So let's just read the little blurb about this. So lawyers, accountants, computer programmers, that's what our parents encouraged us to become when we grew up. But mom and dad were wrong. the future belongs to a very different kind of person with a very different kind of mind. The era of left brain dominance and the information age that it engendered are giving way to a new world in which right brain qualities, inventiveness, empathy, and meaning predominate. So, again, so the jobs of the future, or everything we teach should be different from machines. Here are some let's see if I can let's show this one. Okay. This is about, again, the future.
The future will be those jobs that cannot be done by artificial intelligence and robots. And there are huge gaps in what a robot can do. Robots have very bad eyesight. They see lines, circles, squares, but they don't understand that these lines, circles, squares make up a face, or a chair, or a cup. Pattern recognition is one of the big problems. Second, common sense. They don't understand the simplest things about human behavior, about the world. They don't know that water is wet. They don't know that strings can pull, but strings cannot push. So the two jobs that will thrive in the future and the two sets of jobs that will be destroyed are as follows. Among blue-collar jobs, repetitive jobs are going to be wiped out, obliterated. This means jobs in the automobile industry, textile industry that are purely repetitive are in danger. Non-repetitive jobs in blue-collar work will thrive. Garbage men, sanitation people, gardeners, police, construction workers, every job is different. They will survive. In white-collar work, it defies common sense. The people who will be thrown out of work are middlemen, low-level accountants, bookkeepers, agents, tellers, middlemen. The friction of capitalism are going to be obliterated. So who will benefit among white-collar workers? Workers who engage in intellectual capitalism. What is intellectual capitalism? It involves common sense. In other words, creativity, imagination, leadership, analysis, telling a joke, writing a script, writing a book, doing science. Realize that England, said Tony Blair, derives more revenue from rock music than it does the coal industry. Because we're making a transition from commodity-based capital like coal to intellectual capital like rock and roll.
Okay, so, and then there's another video here that another guy, a scientist, a big Chinese capitalist, who's saying the same things. We need to teach what machines can't do, what robots can't do. So again, there's tons of research out there now. And here in my class, I printed these out and we read them and we marked them up. And hopefully you'll have a link to this slideshow and you can click through here. And one of the things that's really fascinating to me, I like this as an artist and an art teacher, is the powerful effects of drawing on learning. This is a new research out. Why students should draw more. They say that drawing is the best way to learn. Oh, so let's check this one out. Okay, so yeah, drawing is really powerful. And I actually share that video, at least the first half, with my students because a lot of students they have a lot of anxiety about I'm not good at art. And maybe you guys do too. And there's some other things like this mental health crisis in teens is being magnified by the demise of creative subjects in school. And yeah, in the last few years, I've seen a big rise of students with anxiety, and maybe you have too. And of course, now in this time, again, the arts and creative subjects are going to be a balm for our students. Again, this one is why med schools are requiring art classes. And I've seen other articles about doctors prescribing going to museums or listening to music, right? Again, arts education boosts students' writing scores and their compassion. Drawing is the fastest, most effective way to learn, according to new research. Um, and then British doctors are soon to prescribe art. And then here's some new stuff that's come out since the pandemic started. Creativity in the time of crisis. And then I just found out that there's a new um, expectation on arts integration for the California teaching credential. I think that's great. And then this Create California campaign is a great one-stop shop for promoting creativity in the schools. And then this was a recent article that came out of why California arts advocates make a case for artists as second responders to the pandemic. First responders, of course, are the people in the medical field, but then in their recovery, people's recovery, or even for us dealing with our lives upended, the arts are very healing. And then this is a nice uh, link. So all of these, like, why art? Art leads to civic engagement and lifelong arts participation. Art gives a voice in learning and telling their stories. There's a whole bunch. Art cultivates tomorrow's leaders. Art nurtures hope and resiliency. So they have these cool visuals, and then you go here to the citation, and then this is all the research that goes into. I mean, there's tons of research, guys. We can't ignore this anymore. So that's a good a link to check out. Okay, so let's talk again. If this was in an actual PD workshop, what I did was I printed out some of those articles, and then instead of taking notes, you annotate them, right? Or you draw a drawing that summarizes the essence of the article, that kind of thing. And then we did a gallery walk, and then people got to share what they gleaned from these articles. And then these are actually 2 assignments that I just did during distance learning, where I have creativity as part of how I evaluate these things. And this is a vocabulary drawing, right? A lot of us already do that, but we could do it even more when we're learning vocabulary. It's a great way. Drawing is a great way to learn that. And again, you can also incorporate music and movement into this. So part of what I evaluated this on is creativity. Is your project blah or boring? Or is it interesting and express your personality and pizzazz? Does it show effort, or did you rush? Did you innovate? Did you go outside your comfort zone? Here's another one for this Alebrijes slideshow. Does your slideshow show your creativity, your personality, your sense of humor? Did you use the tools in Google to help your slideshow have some pizzazz, colors, fonts, images, transitions, or is it blah or boring? Right? So I make it part of the evaluation process. Again, and then, we got to talk about dance and movement and theater and students sitting too much. And again, now we're going to be sitting in front of computers way too much, and we got to get up and move. So bringing movement back to the classroom is really important. So hopefully we're going to be with our students at least part-time in the fall. And I highly encourage you to get them up and moving. So here's the quote: daily activity also helps boost balance, motor function, brain function, and cognition. According to a growing body of research, movement increases blood oxygen flow, which positively affects cognitive development, physical health, and mental well-being. So here are some, this is one of my favorite move to learn activities. It's called the human sculpture. And here's, you can get students, or even like in a PD, I'd love to do this in a PD one day, get into groups of 3 to 5 persons. Like this would be, you could choose any topic. For this one, it was like, it could be history, or it could be like chapters in a book, or themes in a novel, or, you know, geometric, or, you know, something from math. I'm sure that you could apply this somehow. And then in the group, you're going to brainstorm qualities, ideas, facts, feelings, emotions, the big ideas from that period of history, whatever topic. And then you guys are, the group embodies those ideas through movement, words, music, sound. You come up with like a little skit, basically. You rehearse it. It's going to be short. You could be a skit or like a human sculpture. And then you present to the group, and then the group will guess what period of history it is, or they could guess what, you know, geometric shape it is, or what section of the novel it is, or whatever. And every time I've done this, like it's ingrained in my brain. I remember doing it. I remember the feeling that I had from it. I remember it really clearly. So it like really etches it in your brain. So, and then here's a, let's see, here's another one. So this would be like maybe a good way to introduce yourself, like in the beginning of the school year where you're getting up and moving around. You want to brainstorm 5 to 10 adjectives that describe you, and then pare it down to the top 3 adjectives. You create a short movement that represents these things, like a gesture or a movement. And then you get into a group of 3 people and you choreograph a short little movement or tableau, and you present it to the class as a way to introduce each other. And it's super fun. Like, again, like I said, you remember it. Like, it's one of those things you remember for the rest of your life. And then it says iterative design. So if you had more time, you could take this design thinking or iterative process, and you can like present your little skit or tableau, and then the teacher or someone else could give it critique. You could revise it, how to make it better, and then you share it, present it to the class. And this takes it to another higher level thinking, artist, design process thinking type of thing. So for the last couple of years, I've been teaching Spanish, and I've been incorporating art and music and movement and call and response a lot. And I just want to highlight this Alebrije project. So Alebrijes, you might know them from the movie Coco. Maybe I can go here real quick. So this was from last year. So yeah, you might know them from the movie Coco, right? So there's this characters, lots of characters in the movie Coco. And of course, the students love the movie Coco, so it was great to incorporate that. In the 1930s in Mexico City, this guy, Pedro Linares, was in a coma. And in his coma, he had this hallucination of these creatures, these monsters coming at him and saying, Alebrijes, Alebrijes. And when he woke up, he started creating them. And now they're like integral to the culture of Mexico. And our students, my students made them out of aluminum foil and masking tape, and then we painted them. So super hands-on, very engaging. Some like these 2 work together. You do it by yourself, or you could work in a group and collaborate. Long-term project. Again, very engaging. Whoops, I'm going backwards. So super successful, and students really looked forward to it. And then we ended up painting them and having a great time. So, and it was one of the highlights for me and my students both this year and last year. And, you know, they were having fun. Look how happy they are. That, like, the idea is my students came to class, they got to be creative, they got to create something, they got to learn about this connection to Mexican culture and history, and they were super happy and super engaged. All students, all types of learners. I don't think maybe like one or two students were not engaged, but very engaging, right? So we're come to the end. Oh my gosh. So you could reflect now. What is one thing you learned today that you'll use in your classroom next year? And hopefully you have gained, a more open mindset to the arts if you haven't already, and know that it's part of the future. We're going to be living in an era where creativity is more important, more and more and more. We're moving away from that logical left brain robot way of thinking, and I know for sure we are going into an era of creativity and innovation. It's key. It's about problem solving. We got major problems in the world. We need our students to be innovative and creative and solve these problems. We also need to be them to be happy, right? And deal with their trauma and do something that puts them in the moment so they process their emotions and their feelings and their trauma, and it's very powerful. So let's just go to the end. I thank you so much. Again, if there's this slideshow is full of links. You could, hopefully there'll be a link to it where you can click on them and look at some of the articles and some of the ideas and refresh your memory. And I look forward to this PD we're going to do, and I look forward to working with you. And I hope you spend time this summer being creative, because it is very, very healing. And I thank you so much for joining me, and take it easy. Much love. Peace.